All right. Good morning. Good morning. So today we are going to talk about balance and alignment. Um, I want to know, what do you guys think of when you think of the word balance?
All of the stuff in my life are like not bouncing balls, but they're actually balancing balls. You know what I
Balancing
mean?
ball. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like nice floaty kind
In
of
a peaceful
situation.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
just nice, peaceful, just kind of dee dee dee.
Yep. And then what do you guys think of when you think of alignment?
How
Everything
much my back is out of alignment.
everything like falls into place. Everything aligns with each other.
Yep. I agree with
And you can
both.
kind of watch it from like the day you put it out there until it happens. You can see all these different ways that it's aligning up for you to do what it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So these two words I wanted to talk about today because they kind of get thrown around a lot and they get confused and mixed up a lot too. So, a lot of people take balance and alignment and kind of think of them as the same. But it's really not the same thing. They're two completely different things. So, balance is defined as when your nervous system isn't working properly. So if you get the definition of balance and you look it up in the dictionary, you're going to see that that does not mean what we associate it with in the metaphysical world.
Okay.
So when we're talking about balance, you're going to kind of imagine like a seesaw, like a teeter-totter, right?
Hmm.
And so when you're balanced, it's going to be balanced. It's going to be level. It's going to be straight across there. When you're not balanced, you're going to be teeter-tottering. You're going to be way up in your highs and way down in your lows. We all have those days where we're just out of balance. Okay. And so what balance really feels like is it's not that it's perfect, right? And it's not that your life is going to be perfect, and it's not that you're not going to still have highs and lows. It's just that when you're in balance and you're balanced, you're going to be a lot more calmer about things. Things aren't going to get you're not going to get so a rise out of you over the littlest things anymore. That's a really good sign you're out of balance. You're going to be a lot steadier with your moods. You're not going to have as many mood swings. Um, a million percent less reactive. When we're balanced, we are a million percent less reactive. So that one little thing that when we were out of balance yesterday would totally trip us off and set us on a, little rage of some sorts. When you're balanced, you come across that exact same situation, and it's just a minor inconvenience now. It doesn't trigger you and send you into a whole raging spiral of whatever that emotion or experience is that you're dealing with. It's a lot more grounded of an experience and a lot more less reactive. You're like, yeah, this sucks, but it's really not as bad as it could be. You kind of get in that balance. um when you're balanced, your body is no longer in fight or flight mode. Okay, so if we go back to the physical definition of balance, that's when your body is out of balance, when your nervous system and your immune system, everything is just not working properly. It's out of balance. So a lot of time that's where you'll see the people that are existing in their fight or flight mode. They're very defensive. If you say, um, like a good example would be like when my daughter was younger, she'd be like, "Would you like this shirt?" I'd be like, "Well, I like it, but I just don't think it quite suits you." And she would go on a whole spiral of, "Are you calling me fat? You think my shirt ugly? You think I'm ugly? Everything's horrible." And it's like, whoa, 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 back up. I didn't say any of that. I just said that I thought maybe you would like a different shirt, you know, trying to give you honest feedback. But then that feedback, because she was out of balance, went directly into a spiral. So, what we're talking about when we're talking about balance is how do we get our body into a state where things like that are no longer going to trigger and spiral us, right? It's going to be more of an understanding, and a better response would be, I did think it was a little tight, or, you're right. I kind of liked the other shirt better, or are you sure? Because this is like my favorite shirt. It changes your response and how you're able to perceive the information that's coming into you from around the world. So, getting in balance is completely separate from being aligned. And getting in balance means that we're learning ourselves and we're learning what works and what doesn't work, and how to be grounded and how to respond appropriately. And it's really all boils down to the very root of it's not about you. Okay. We exist in this world with 8 billion plus other humans, and each and every single one of us, all 8 billion plus humans, right? There's so many of us. All of us have our own individual reality, and we all have our own path that we're here to walk. And your path is unique to you and you alone. And there is nobody else in this world that thinks exactly like you do. You are 100% unique. Okay. There's no two people that have the exact same world. There's just not. Even husband and wife. You guys can be together and spend every day together, but that still does not mean you live in the same reality. You both have your individual realities, and you both are walking your individual path. And so sometimes those paths stay together throughout life, and sometimes it's time for those paths to go separate ways. When you're out of balance, when those paths go separate ways, it causes chaos. When you're in balance, those paths can go separate ways, and you can go separate ways with a better understanding of, we were together, we accomplished these things together, we learned these lessons together, and now it's time for us to go our separate ways to learn other lessons and do other things. So, but you've got to remember we're all on our own individual path, right? And no two paths are the same. So, a big part of getting balanced is realizing that it's not about you. Your interaction with other people in this world is not about you. If you go to the grocery store today and somebody cuts in front of you in line and tells you you're fat, all right, that's not because you were at the grocery store and you're fat. It's because they're having a bad day. They're in a hurry. They're not comfortable with their own body, and they're projecting that to you. So they're cutting in front of line to you, and they're calling you fat, and they're just being assholes. And it actually has zero to do with you. You have no part of that other than you happen to be the person standing there to receive that information. So if you're somebody that's out of balance, that could really send you into a spiral. Like, why would this person do this to me? Why would they cut in front of me? And why would they call me fat? And like, I've been on a diet and I wear like a size 2 and I'm not even fat. Why would they call me that? And maybe I need to go on another diet, and how dare them? And you get so wrapped up in what somebody else said. But the reality is that whole experience right there had zero to do with you. That was not even your experience. That was them having a bad day and projecting their own shit on you. So you've got to start kind of taking a step back from what society has taught us that we are what it's about. Every interaction, when you grow up in society and you go to school and you go get a job, everything is put on you. You're the responsible party. But that's not really the truth. That is taking on other people's energy, and that is taking on other people's paths and mindsets and applying them to yourself and taking responsibility for other people. Well, that's not in balance at all. That is completely way whack out of balance, because you're not taking care of yourself at all. You're over here doing something for somebody else. We got to come back to self. Back to self. And so balance, really, a another good word that gets mixed up in there a lot in society and stuff is selfish. Don't be selfish, right? Um, that's a whole nother crock of shit, right? Because taking care of yourself and not worrying about what other people have to say about things and how they want to interact and um you know, it's not selfish, it's self-care. There's a difference. Saying, "You know what? No, I'm not gonna go do that for you." That's self-care, that's not selfish. So, we kind of got to step back from what society has taught us our responsibilities are. And we've got to learn to be responsible for ourselves and to get ourselves into balance and ourselves into alignment and to really kind of hone in on that that you is the most important thing in your world. And as we do important things throughout our lives, like have children, they become a priority. But if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of your children. So even when we have big responsibilities and priorities that come into our lives, you still have to remember you are the number one priority because you can't take care of those children and raise those children if you are not doing good yourself. If you're not good yourself, how can you provide them with the best? So you have to be your priority. Until you can get into that mindset, getting into balance is going to be a really hard thing because it's just like that teeter totter, right? If your needs are sitting down on the ground while everybody else's needs are getting taken care of, they're flying high up here. You're all the way down at rock bottom because you're putting all your energy into taking care of other people and you're not balancing that out and taking care of yourself. So, and I see this a lot with a lot of the people I've worked with, a lot of the people I've done therapy with, a lot of the past life regressions I've done. It's kind of a repeating theme that people come to me and, really their biggest issue that they need to work on is getting in balance with themselves because they are not taking care of self. They are taking care of everybody and everything else. They're worried about everybody and everything else. And it's a hard thing to learn to change to take care of yourself. But to get in balance, you really have to take care of self. Um, and so how do we get in balance? Okay, well, first of all, by starting with things like this. You can't fix something until you know it's broken, right? Nobody wakes up and says, "Oh, I'm going to go fix my car today." If it's not broken. We don't just wake up and want to fix our car. No, you wait till the light comes on the dash or until your tire's getting low or it's making a funny sound. That's when we say, "Hey, what's wrong here? Let's get this fixed." Okay. So the first thing you got to do is you've got to acknowledge it. You've got to see that there's an issue there and you've got to want to make that change. So, getting into balance starts by being aware of what's going on in your world. And it starts by recognizing I'm not taking enough care of myself. I'm putting too much priority into this, and this, and not enough priority into self. And so, as you start working through this, you are going to notice that you start to feel a lot more calm. Things don't aggravate you as much. You're a lot easier to get along with because we're not here to teach everybody else everything and we're not here to argue with everybody else and we're not here to make everybody believe the same way we do, right? So once you kind of let go of that and you're just concerned with yourself, then you're a lot less reactive. Things don't bother you so much because you realize those are not coming from you. Those are coming from somebody else. That's somebody else's energy in their path. So you get more grounded, you get less reactive, you feel a lot calmer. You also start building your confidence. It's amazing how much your confidence grows when you really start taking care of yourself. Um, so acknowledging that there's a problem. Then the next thing is to try not to let yourself be overstimulated because it's really easy to take on more than what we can handle. So, and that used to be a really big thing for me. I wanted to do everything all at the same time, and real life happens and it doesn't work out. So, you've got to learn to prioritize. What are you going to work on now? How are we going to accomplish this first? And look at how big your plate is. If you got too much food on your plate and you eat it all, then you're sick for 3 days because you just totally indulged in a ridiculous amount of food that you didn't need, right? It causes long-term complications behind that. If you do it repeatedly, then you start having problems with your weight, you start having problems with your immune system, with your lymphatic system, you start getting sick more, you start having all these different things going on because of having too full of a plate to begin with. So that applies across the board in all the different aspects of our life. You've got to start looking at what you're doing and saying, hey, you know what? It's time for me to cut this off the plate.
Where'd you go?
Oh, I don't know. Everything back, I guess. Can you see me now?
Yep.
Just my trees, though, huh? Still no camera.
Yep. Just the trees. But it's pretty.
It is pretty. I like it. I like it. So, looking at your plate and what you've got on there, and start prioritizing things, like, okay, I don't have to do this now, I can do this later, and kind of setting things aside. And then intentions. So if you're waking up every morning and you're setting that intention to get balanced with yourself, the universe hears that. God, whatever you practice, they hear that intention. They hear you saying, I want to be in balance with myself. And they will help guide you there. You'll start noticing the little things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis that make you out of balance, and you'll start being able to start correcting those and making some changes in your life. You've got to be grateful. Always be grateful. Um Gratitude is another thing that helps us get into balance, because it's really easy to get to one extreme or the other with gratitude. There is a such thing as toxic positivity. Like, you'll see some of these influencers and stuff, and spiritual talkers that, everything's got to be positive. And that's kind of almost as toxic as the more norm of everything being negative. Either way, there's got to be a balance there. This world is day and night. We have light, we have dark, we have good, we have bad. So we can't do away with all the bad things, because that would completely defeat the purpose of coming to earth to experience things. You can't appreciate the good without understanding the bad, and vice versa. Like, they go hand in hand, they coincide for a reason. And so we want to balance that out. Now, the toxic positivity is not nearly as common as the negative. So a lot of us, and I know I'm guilty too, we get ourselves into negative mindsets, because something will go wrong, something will happen, and then that just triggers you, and you just spiral into, you know, why did this happen to me? Why is this happening to me? Um, this sucks, that sucks, I hate this, I don't have this, I don't have that. And it just kind of builds upon itself. And that teeter totter gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, because you get to the point where you don't even recognize the good things that you have in your life anymore, because you're spiraling into the negative side of it. So you got to start catching yourself. And these are kind of little things we've been talking about in little bits and pieces, over the different courses I've been putting out there for you. Um, but we've got to recognizing that, like, you know, a good example would be the boxes that I left outside overnight to get rained on, right? I could be so upset about that. Well, and it's kind of funny, because when I told my friend this morning, she replied with, well, why didn't he pick them up? And so that's something that we do. We automatically get into that blame cycle, when something goes wrong. Well, whose fault is it? When something goes wrong, it's got to be somebody's fault. Well, it really doesn't. Take accountability for yourself and your own actions. You know, I set those boxes out there I don't know what time. He usually comes between 1 and 3, so maybe we missed him. Maybe he already came. Maybe he was sick and didn't work yesterday. Maybe there was a substitute driver and they missed my house. Like, there's a whole big list of reasons as to why he maybe didn't show up. But the reality is, it was my responsibility when I set him out there to make sure that they got picked up, and I didn't check that. So when I went to bed last night, they were still sitting outside and they got rained on, and now I got to repack them this morning. So I could go spiral down a whole negative road with that, or I can just take accountability for it. Yep, I fucked that up. So now I'm going to go repack these boxes and carry on with my day. It didn't send me down a spiral. It didn't get me all upset. It's still a "are you fucking kidding me" moment, but let's leave it at that. Take the moment for what it is, process it, acknowledge it, and roll with it. Because if you get stuck there, then it just spirals and it turns into not just the packages, but, you know, well, it's raining outside and oh, I got this stuff that I still have to do. And oh, it just, you got to catch yourself in those negative moments and stop yourself and rephrase it and redirect yourself back into a little more of a positive thing. And it's not a light switch, guys. Life is not a light switch. You can't just wake up one day and all of a sudden you're perfect. None of us are like that. None of us ever have been and none of us ever will be. It's just about doing what you can a little bit every day. So recognizing those highs and lows and recognizing those triggers, things that trigger you, that's the other thing. If something triggers you, that is very much the universe telling you, you need to work on this because triggers are not healthy. Triggers are saying that you're out of balance really a lot in this area because it's teeter-tottering you all the way to the bottom or all the way to the top. So you really need to take those triggers and take time to look inside self and ask yourself, why does this trigger me? Why do I get so upset about this? How can I work through this so that this doesn't trigger me so going forward? What is it about this situation that puts me into a negative spiral? Let's fix that. And like I said in the beginning, it takes time. And the first step is acknowledging that that's happening.
No.
Once you can acknowledge it, that's when you can start to make changes with it. Um, Remember your breath work, breathing, deep breaths in and out. Super helpful always. Grounding yourself. Just go put yourself on, take your shoes off and get your feet in some grass. That is an amazing thing. Drink water, take a nap, get up and go for a walk. I love to use walks when I get stressed out. When I get stressed out, the best thing for me is to just walk. It gets that energy out. It gets my energy flowing through my body again. It kind of calms my brain. It lets me just kind of refocus. Um so so that's kind of the overall of balance. What do you guys think about balance? How you feeling about that? Do you have questions about that?
No, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so now let's talk about alignment for a bit.
Can I
Um,
actually just a second, Christy?
yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
when you asked if we had any questions or anything like that, now I have just a really good praise, kind of. Um, I've been working on this balance and stuff for a few years now with the Lord.
Right?
Um, because I have been so out of whack my whole life, and even when my children were little, oh goodness. And it's only been the last like year and a half that I've really started calming down. And
Right?
then what I've been learning from you, like in your classes, has helped me to calm down even more and feel like my balls are even more in a
I
row
love
instead
that.
of,
Yeah. And it
So
does
it's
take
like
time.
it does. It takes a really long time, and I don't want anybody that's in here or that sees this video to think that this is something that you should stop working on because it's not working. Because let me tell you, it does work. It just
It does.
takes time, like anything else. It takes time to get used to not being a chaotic person.
Absolutely. For me too, before 2020, my life was very, very chaotic. It was nonstop chaos every day, you know? And in 2020, we were actually getting ready to move to Florida. We sold all our stuff off. We had a storage shed. We were getting ready to move, and then COVID happened. And COVID did a lot of good things for a lot of people, and it did a lot of bad things for a lot of people too. But what it did for me was first of all, it helped me out financially because we were the only place in the world open. But what it did was it taught me how to slow down, right? And it put me on the path to end up where I was. I was at the bar with my partner. I experienced that whole deal where he passed away. And then I got sent out to the campground. And so the last 6 years, I've learned so much, and it's been a progression, and things come together, and they slowly do. And but just like you said, it takes time. Like, that chaos doesn't just disappear overnight, but it won't start to go away until you start to acknowledge it and make those changes and make those differences.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I'm
That was
so
a big
sorry
one
you
for me
lost your
too.
partner.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of a whole crazy deal. We'll talk about that another day. That was a that was a whole deal. I could talk about that for a couple hours. So it's kind of crazy, but yeah. Well, thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate that. All right. So let's talk about alignment. So alignment is completely different than balance, right? If you think about your car, when your car is out of alignment, it pulls to one direction or it pulls to the other direction, and you got to go get your tires aligned. Otherwise, pulling, they're going to wear those tires unevenly, and then you're going to end up having a flat tire. And there's a lot of effect that happens from the cause of not having your car in alignment, right? You can even your I'm not a mechanic, but all your parts that are holding together down there, they will break from your car being out of alignment, from it pulling while you're trying to pull it back to go straight. And so alignment comes from your choices and the decisions that we make. It also comes from, do those choices match what your values are? So what is actually true to you? So a good example would be like, I believe that the type of content that I'm putting out here in these videos that we're doing and lives that we're doing, I believe that they're helpful to people, and I believe there's people that need that information just like I did. And so I try to show that with my actions by showing up here, by adding the content in, by doing that, right? And so that kind of is in alignment with each other. Something that wouldn't be in alignment is if I said, I am a hardcore devoted Christian, right? And then I went down the street to the strip club that's playing some Satan music. All right. That is completely not in alignment with what I say my values are. So when you're saying one thing and you're doing something completely different, you are not in alignment. When you're saying, I want my life to be balanced, yet you jump up and run to cater to the person that is your roommate or whatever, you're saying you want to be in balance, but you're still doing these actions that are completely against what you're saying. You're doing one thing and saying another. You're saying one thing and doing another. So alignment is when, and it all comes back to self. It always comes back to self. And that is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. It comes back to self. So when you get yourself into alignment, you start to really um purposefully present your truth. So your truth is honoring yourself. It's honoring your values. And you start doing actions and doing things that feed into what your truth is. As long as you're saying, this is what I believe, but you're doing that instead, you're out of alignment. Alignment is authentic. Alignment allows you to assess a situation and decide what the right direction is going to be, because it's really easy. Decisions used to be a really hard thing for me. I would struggle with decisions. And since I've been on this journey and done this education and training and such, I've learned the difference between important decisions and just day-to-day decisions, and when I need to make a good choice between these choices, or when I can just go with it and see what happens. Okay. So a good example would be last week. I didn't feel good. I was not feeling my best self. I was just not feeling good. So I had to decide what is in my best interest. Okay, I still have things I need to be accountable for. I still have things I need to be responsible for. I still have things I need to make sure get done. But right now, I don't feel my best self. I don't feel good. So I need to be truthful with myself and acknowledging that my energy's low, my attitude's not great, I'm not feeling my best self. I need to communicate that with the people that are in my immediate world. Hey guys, just so you know, I'm not feeling my best. And I'll tell my kids that too. Like I'll tell Dusty, honey, I am not feeling my best self right now. Instead of letting her continue on with whatever it is she's doing that normally wouldn't annoy me or whatever. And then me end up yelling at her for something she didn't even need to be yelled at because she's a kid and she was just doing whatever kids do. I can communicate with her, hey kid, I'm really not feeling my best self right now. I'd really appreciate it if you'd let me have some space. And she's like, okay. So then she learns that she just needs to leave me be, give me my space, and she can go do whatever she needs to do for herself. And so that's what getting in alignment looks like. I didn't used to do that. Used to be, if I didn't feel good, guess what? I'm going to take some ibuprofens. I'm going to take some fucking Dayquil or NyQuil or whatever, and I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to keep doing everything I need to do all day long. I didn't used to acknowledge, hey, you know what? Not feeling my best self. I need to take some time for rest. I need a little extra personal care. I still have to, you know, so acknowledging that and bringing that to the forefront and telling yourself, hey, it's okay. It's okay to not feel your best self all the time. We can't do that. Communicate that with the people that are in your immediate world and do what you need to do to take care of yourself so you can get back to feeling your best self. That is in alignment. Um, let's see. So setting boundaries, releasing what you don't need. Saying no to things you don't want to do. You don't feel guilty about that. These are all things that we have to do for ourselves. And like I said, it all comes back down to self. What is true and authentic for you? What are your goals for the long term? Um, and that's the other thing about alignment, right? We come to this earth, we get introduced, we grow up in these families, we get introduced to society. We get introduced to Hollywood and high dollar things and expensive things. And sometimes it's hard for us to figure out, what is it I want out of my life? What is it I'm trying to do with my life? Where's my life even going? Sometimes it can be really difficult to figure out. So that goes back to that intention. If you've got to set your intention, and you've got to be flexible, because you might think you want something, but you actually really don't. And so we are manifestors. We can manifest anything, right? And I use this example a lot. It's just like a puppy dog. Okay. Everybody wants a puppy when they see one. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at that cute little puppy. It's the cutest little thing ever. Or little kitty cat or baby chick or whatever, right? Look at that super cute little baby. I've got to have one. I want one. I want one. I want one. Well, do you actually want one? Or do you just like the idea of it? Because how many of these babies end up 4 to 6 months later in a shelter somewhere or for free on Facebook because they got the puppy that they wanted so bad because it was so cute. And then they realized that puppies are a lot of work. They pee and poop on your floor, they get in the trash, they tear shit up, they'll eat your couch, they want to go out in the middle of the night. They're a lot of work. So a lot of people get that puppy they really thought they wanted, and then they figure out, oh, this is too much. We can't have this. And then they dump the puppy off at wherever, or they put it up for free. You know, just because you think you want something, we've got to learn, and we need to be teaching our children to actually think that through. What does that mean? What does that actually look like? That thing you want right now, what does that actually look like? What is that going to do for you in the long run? How are you going to contribute, participate with that in the long run? Because when we just feed into those instant, I want this and we go get it, you're missing out on a whole bigger picture there. And we're not taught to look at that bigger picture. So we just want the instant gratification. So getting into alignment with yourself isn't necessarily about deciding what you want. It's more what is best for you. So what are your passions? What are the things you love? What are you working towards as a bigger picture? But at the same time, keep your intentions vague. Especially when you're in that mode of figuring things out, we don't want to be too specific, because maybe you want a pet and maybe you need that companionship of a pet, right? And, but if you keep that intention open and you say, I really feel like having the companionship of a pet would be a good thing for me. I think this would be in alignment with myself. I've got time to take care of a pet. And you think through that process, you might decide that actually, now that I'm really thinking about this, a dog wouldn't be a good pet, because I work 60 hours a week and I go out every night, every Friday and Saturday night, I'm out partying, and I live in a tiny little apartment. And, maybe I need to get a gecko or a goldfish. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, just because you want a pet, and you see the cute puppy, doesn't mean that's what's in alignment for you. So keeping those intentions open for the universe to help you figure out what that is actually in alignment with you, and thinking through the long term of it. It's also very important to remember to live in the now, because yes, we need to be mindful about, what we do today affects tomorrow, right? But nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. So if you spend all day today worrying about tomorrow, and then you die in your sleep tonight, what point was that? You just wasted the last day of your life sitting there worrying about something that doesn't even exist yet, when you could have been enjoying the day you had. You could have been taking a walk outside. You could have been playing with your pets or your kids, or you could have been reading your favorite book. And instead, you sat there all day and worried about something that doesn't even exist yet and has an infinite possibility of ways it could turn out. So it is so important to stay in the present and in the now, and not worry about the future. Be mindful about it, because what we do today affects tomorrow, but don't worry about it. Mindfulness, not worrying. The whole goal is to just really get yourself to a state where you're comfortable in your own skin. You're comfortable with the decisions you make. You're comfortable with other people not liking you or not liking the choices you make. That's really when you're going to notice you're really getting into alignment. When all these other things really don't affect you anymore. Same thing with balance. I mean, yeah, they still exist, but they're not affecting you. They're not sending you on these spirals, because it's a really hard way to exist. It's time to make some changes.
I used to live in that world.
Yeah, yeah, very reactive.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and
That
it's
was me
just,
for, oh my God, I think since I was born.
yeah, yeah. And now we are living in a time where we can actually talk about these alternative things. And it's not that it's alternative, it's just that it was shunned upon for so long. If we'd have been having this conversation back in the 50s,
Oh my
I
goodness.
would have been accused of
We would have been
witchcraft,
burned. Yeah.
and they'd have burned
Yes.
me. So a lot of this information has really been buried and kept quiet for a long time. And the public school system is set up to train workers, not to teach people to be advocates for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to unlearn a lot of what we learned to get to the point where we are grounded in alignment with ourselves and with our purpose and what we're here doing on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Smoky
That.
quartz, black tourmaline, super great ones for balance and alignment, both of them.
Oh, that's perfect. I chose smoky quartz this morning.
Perfect. I love it.
That's
I
the
love
one
it.
that called me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yep. So here's kind of where like it breaks down to balance is about feeling steadier within your body and yourself. And alignments is more of feeling truthful with yourself in your life. Both are super important. Both take time to accomplish. Don't be hard on yourself. Know that where you're at right now, there's other people that have been there, lots and lots of other people. And where you're going is super important. So even if you're having a bad day, that doesn't mean tomorrow's not going to be better. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with these difficult things and these triggering things. This is temporary. All right. And humans have existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So somebody out there has been in an abusive relationship before. Somebody out there has been all the different scenarios you can come up with. Somebody out there has already experienced that, and probably a whole lot more people than what you realize, you know? And also remember when you're looking at social media and you're looking at all these people that they have these perfect lives. Well, that's just on camera, okay?
Yep.
What it looks like behind the camera, you don't even want to know, because the ones that have the worst behind camera lives are the ones that tend to make the
Have
best
the most
positive
perfect
perfect lives.
pictures.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. That's their world there is that perfect picture, but behind the camera it's a disaster. Um
Yep.
so we really need to get to that point of balance and alignment, each and every one of us. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about when you're not balanced. It's okay to talk about when you're not aligned. It's okay to talk about how do I get myself out of this, because we all have those lows, we all have the highs. Um, don't compare yourself to anybody else, because where you're at in your journey and your path right now is exactly where you need to be. If you're uncomfortable with the situation, ask yourself why. And and it comes back to self. It always comes back to self. Why am I uncomfortable with this situation? What can I do to make sure this situation is not uncomfortable for me again? How do I make sure this situation doesn't repeat itself? I don't want to experience this again. What lesson is here for me to learn? And learn that. And holy schmoly, my computer is already battery dead. I don't know how, but that's about it. So you don't have to overhaul everything. You don't have to redo everything in your life and make all these changes just in one night. Right now, snap your fingers, it's done. It takes time. And it's the little choices that matter, guys. It's the little moments, the little things that matter and that add up. When you build a house, all right, you don't just go in there and set down the whole house. You have to do all the little individual steps first. First, you got to do some digging and get your ground right. Then you got to build some forms up to pour some concrete. Then you got to get some boys in there to do all your plumbing and all your incoming wiring that's coming from underground and get all that stuff done. Then you got to put some walls up. Then you got to put a roof on the thing. Then you got to go back and put some insulation in it, and then some drywall. And then you can start working on some trim and some flooring and some cabinets and some toilets and some sinks and some doors and some doorknobs. You don't just throw the house down there and there it is. All the little steps matter. Little things, one at a time. And if you work on those little things every day you're working on these little things. And before you know it, you've got the whole house. You don't just wake up and have the whole house though. You've got to put in the time and the effort, and you've got to show up for yourself, and you've got to hold yourself accountable, and you've got to be kind to yourself. And by holding yourself accountable doesn't mean stepping out of your boundaries. It doesn't mean stepping out of balance. It means acknowledging what you need and taking care of what you need so that you can continue to take care of what everybody else needs too. I think that's pretty much the summary of balance and alignment.
Awesome.
Your choices matter, you know?
Yes, they do.
Choices matter. I was just
I
reading
have
through here to
some,
see if there's anything I missed. Go ahead.
I need some advice.
Sure.
My husband last night said to me, babe, I'm really, really worried that we're not going to make any money off your business because it's been all of, the money that he makes and what I make, what little I make from my disability, that's been paying for everything for me to, make all these boxes and stuff. And don't go to my first show until the 16th, and who knows how many people are going to show up at that show and stuff, and if I'll even make anything there. But he's got me kind of, I was very comfortable about everything, and I still am very comfortable about everything, but I keep going back to what he said. And how can I turn that around so that I don't feel, because I've been feeling this for since I started making the boxes, and knowing that I was going to go and sell them, and sell some of the specimens that I buy and stuff. And I can't get it out of my head what he said, and it's just making me sad and spiral just a little bit off of my track that
Yeah.
I'm on.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Um, First of all, you don't know if you don't try.
That's right.
So you don't know if you don't try. There is no guarantee that you're going to do great. There's no guarantee that you're going to do good. And there's no guarantee that you're even going to sell anything. But there is a guarantee that if you don't try, you won't.
That's right.
Okay. If you don't try, you're not going to do anything because you didn't try. So, really, rather than worrying about if that's going to be successful or not, you need to just focus on the now, and remember that you're doing it because you enjoy doing it and you want to remember the reasons why you're doing it. And remember to be flexible with yourself. So, once you get going, it takes a while for any business.
Mm-hmm.
In America, in America, 95% of businesses fail within the first year. 95% of all startup businesses fail within the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 5% that are left, 95% of those fail within the first 5 years.
Wow.
So, the actual reality of a business staying in business and being successful and sticking with it for the long run, it's really not that great of odds. So, if you sit there and worry about that, then you're probably not ever going to get there with it. So, focusing on the now and what you can do and what you want out of it too. If you're thinking that you're going to make these boxes and replace two full-time incomes, you might
Oh,
be being a
goodness,
little
no.
ambitious.
No, I don't even plan on replacing an income at all. I'm just planning on trying to, I'm doing the boxes because I love them, and it's
Right,
my art.
right.
And I need to sell them because it costs a lot of money to get the beautiful rocks to put on these boxes. But
And when
I
we
do
do
it
what
because I
we
enjoy it so much,
and
and I
that's
just figure,
absolutely yeah, and that's absolutely a great reason to do it. You know, so just be realistic with your goals, and be consistent and show up for yourself. And if it's something you really enjoy, then it's not wrong. It's just
okay,
not. across the board. It's not wrong. And you never know where that might take you. It might take you to some craft shows where you meet some amazing people. It might get you on Whatnot where you meet some amazing people. And if you love them, somebody else is going to love them. Somebody else is going to buy them.
Yeah. I feel
If
that
you
way
love it,
too.
it's kind of the same as like somebody else has had that experience. If you love something, then somebody else is going to do that. Somebody else is going to love that too. Like all the rocks and crystals that I buy to resell, I buy them because I like them. If I don't like it, I don't buy it. I don't buy
Yes.
it. I just don't, like, and I do really well. And most of the people that come into my shows, as you well know, also enjoy the things that I enjoy. And so I'm able to buy them, enjoy them, and then sell them. And, eventually I'd like to grow this to where I can support 3 or 4 families working through here.
Yeah.
It takes time, but you got to be realistic with your goals. Like I said, if you were trying to replace 2 incomes with the art boxes that you made this year, that's really not a very realistic goal. It's kind of something to be concerned about. But if your intention is, I love making these boxes and I want to be able to recover the investment I put into them and have a little extra spending money to keep doing it, then that is a realistic goal that you will be able to achieve.
And that is my intention. That's
You
what I
know?
said from the very beginning. I said, babe, maybe by the middle of the summer I've gone to enough shows and maybe I'll made enough money to be able to send you to a concert this year. Cause that's
Right.
Adam's absolute favorite thing to do. And I just can't seem to come up with the money yet this year to buy him a ticket because I always buy him in advance. And he's already getting upset. And I mean, last year I sent him to one concert and oh, and he was so on me like a child to get me to buy these concert tickets for him so that he could go last year because we always buy them for our kids too. So it's not just one ticket I'm buying. And
Right.
and so I that's what I told him that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
Concert tickets, and that's not a lot of money. It's just
Right.
enough that if I take it out of what we spend each week, it will be a hardship for a couple of weeks.
Right. Right. So,
So
as long as your heart's in the right spot, it's going to work out,
I
you
think
know?
so too.
Absolutely. And something else I learned just here these last couple years, right? And it kind of does really tie in with the balance and alignment. Like I love nature. I love being out in nature. I am a river girl. I could spend my life in the river and never leave it. And so something that I thought I really wanted when I went out to that campground and started working at that campground, that place it is amazing. It is absolutely beautiful, 300-acre property with 3 miles of river on it.
Oh, beautiful.
Um, stunning river, clear water. I mean, it's amazing, right? And uh I really thought that I wanted that, and I was really trying to manifest that to be a thing. And I was really trying to figure out how I could purchase that property for $3 million.
Wow.
And and I was doing the rock and crystal thing just kind of as for fun on the side, right? And when everything happened at the campground at the end there, when it happened and we had to leave from there, I thought that, everybody was like, well, you're taking this so well. You're not like, I would be devastated if that just happened to be. And I'm like, I'm not though. Right. And even though I was walking away from like really my dream job in life of living on that property and running that property and managing that property, after we got moved and settled in, I realized that that really isn't, it's that goes back to the idea. The idea of owning that 300-acre campground and managing and running that property was great. But what it actually takes, it takes a whole lot. It takes a full-time dedication. I had to be available 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah, it
So
takes your life over.
it did, so I wasn't able to go on vacation for 2 weeks in the middle for even a week in the middle of summer because I couldn't leave that property unattended for a week. Who knows what kinda. It,
Oh boy.
um, it was way more than really what I want out of my life. I don't wanna be 60 years old working 365 days a year, 24/7. And that's
Yeah.
what that would have led to had I have been able to fulfill that want I thought I wanted. And what it turned into, okay, we had this property over where I live now was Michael's grandma's property. We inherited it. And our intentions were to clean it up and sell it. Right. We were going to come over here. We were going to clean it up real quick. We were going to put it on the market, sell it, and use that money to start building our house over on our other property. And we had zero intentions of staying here. But after we got here, got settled in, Michael found a job, we figured out that this really is a lot more in alignment with what we want for the long term. I never in a million years would have guessed that. And if you'd have asked me 6 months before I moved here if I would ever live here and be happy about it, I'd have laughed at you and said, fuck no. Not a chance. I would not move into that trailer over there. That ain't gonna happen. Not anything against trailers, but this one was looking pretty rough from the outside. I hadn't even been in it yet. I just seen pictures of it. And I'd have been like, yep, I ain't moving in there. I'll go live in my camper off grid before I move into that place. It's right on the blacktop highway. Now it's a country highway, not like a interstate highway, but still it's in my front yard. My other property is 2 miles down a gravel road that's private. You better have four-wheel drive and know where you're going.
Oh, see, that's where I would want to be. That's where I want to be right now.
Yeah, so I mean, if you'd have asked me 6 months before I moved over here, if you'd have asked me 2 months before I moved over here, if I ever would have stayed here and enjoyed it and liked it, I'd have laughed at you and told you no, not a chance. And so we don't always know what we want until it presents itself. And when you're going through something that seems really stressful and really hard and really difficult, and you don't really understand, it's amazing how after that, as long as you're in alignment with yourself and you've been working with self and you've been doing these things, after you get through that and you sit back and you look around, you're like, well, damn, this is a lot more like what I wanted than what I thought I wanted. This actually really works. This actually is not so stressful. My stress level dropped 1,000,000% after we moved over here, after Michael
That's
got his
great.
job, you know, but it's not something I ever would have thought that we would have. It's not where I ever thought we would have moved to. It's not something I thought we would have ever experienced. And I expect the situation at the campground to end like it did. That woman gave me a raise. She gave me a $5 an hour raise. She gave Michael a $5 an hour raise. She praised us. She's like, you guys have done amazing things for the campground. You've renovated all these buildings. Everything looks amazing out here. You've got the grounds all cleared up. We had to clean up so much stuff out there. And we were on our third summer out there. And she was just, you guys are the best, the best, the best. 2 weeks later, she's like, you're the scum of the bottom of the earth. Get the fuck out of here. And didn't give us our last paychecks.
Wow.
So it did a complete 360 in 2 weeks' time. So I was not prepared for that, nor did I
No.
expect that or anything. So normally that would have been a whole nother chaos situation, just like, my whole life, another chaos situation. But when it happened, it was oddly calm. It was oddly like, yeah, you're right, man. We're fucking out of here. Okay, bye. It was oddly smooth transition. Everything about it was different than all the prior times in my life I've had situations come up. It was so just chill. It's like, you know what? Yeah, fuck you too. We're out. And we
Yeah.
kind of
Like you
laughed
were
about
on the
it
road that
because
you were supposed to be going down, even though that what you didn't know it yet.
that's right, and it's been amazing. But so don't worry too much about what the future looks like, because even if you don't have a clue, as long as you're trying to be in balance and alignment with yourself, and as long as you're being truthful with yourself, it's going to work out, you know, and it might not work out the way you thought or the way you maybe wanted, but it might work out to be so much better and so much more than what it could have ever been if it had worked out the way you thought.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I really feel like he's just a little nervous, and once I make a little bit of money, he'll calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also haven't gotten out there with them yet. I haven't showed them to anybody, so you
Well,
can't make any money off of something that you haven't shown anybody.
right. Well, and an alternative thought process there, Rebecca, is let's just assume the worst and say you try putting them out there and you can't get anybody to buy them and you can't make any money off of it. Okay. Um, we're just going to assume the worst. So, how do you turn that into a positive? Well, you are going to save money because actually, what you just did was you just made the next 2 years worth of Christmas presents for everybody that you now don't have to go spend money on.
That's exactly where I was going before you said it. That's crazy. I was thinking that same exact thing right
Yes.
as you were
No,
saying it. Well,
absolute worst
Christmas
case
presents,
scenario is still not that
birthday
bad. You still
presents,
don't have to spend money on presents. Right.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of everything. So, yeah, it could be a very good
Yeah.
investment that I've made in the last few months.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
And you'll be able
great.
to come up with something to get him concert tickets. There will be something there.
Yes, there
So
will be.
so just stay
Because that's what
truthful.
he's supposed to do.
Yeah. So just stay truthful with yourself and stay on your path, and just roll with it. And worst case scenario, you just invested in everybody's Christmas presents and birthday presents for the next couple years, which is going to save you money
That's
in the
right.
long run.
It sure is. Wow.
And they're presents filled with love.
Yes, thank you so much. See, that just made me even happier. I'm like, yay, now I might not be making them for other people. They might be made for my family.
That's right. And you know, it is what it is, but don't get hung up on it. Don't get hung up on it. Just roll with it. And you can reassure him too, hey honey, I mean if it doesn't work out, then we'll figure something else out. And this isn't a waste. And it's okay.
Yeah. And I
You know?
promise I'll stay off whatnot and not buy any more stuff, which
Right.
will be a promise that unfortunately will be broken, I'm sure.
Yep. Well, just promise not to buy as much stuff and then you'll be okay.
Yeah. Good thinking.
Yeah. I promise I'll be more mindful about my spending. But
Yeah. Let's go for
um
the big pieces that I really want.
yeah, save up for them and get the big ones. Yep. Yep. And it all comes with time. Just time and patience with yourself is a big thing too, you know?
Sorry for hijacking the whole coffee hour.
Hey, it's cool. I appreciate you. Sorry, my camera's not working. I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting to figure that out. It just
Cool.
isn't wanting to come on. I don't know why. It says it's on. I don't know. I'll have to do some troubleshooting. Okay, I'm gonna end the recording. I think that's that for the recording for today.